Hey everybody, we're back. We had just finished our second big long investigation into the return of the great departed soul. And now I think we're getting back into court. Hope everyone's getting ready for the end of the week. It's someone's birthday today. Not mine. It's someone I know. Good morning to you, Mr. Naruhodo! Good morning, Professor. Ready for today's proceedings? I hope so. I should be. Even I, with nothing left to... Good morning, my dear fellows! Oh, Mr. Shulms, you're here! I slept in the courtroom! Why, naturally, a true gentleman stands shoulder to shoulder with his friends in battle at all times. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'll see you later then. Okay. Now, Professor, we really need you to remain calm in the courtroom today. Yes, do try your hardest not to enter the witness stand uninvited again. Yes, I will. I realize it was a mistake, but My dear fellows, I must interject! Oh, you're still here, Mr. Shulms. What's the matter? Surely you've overlooked some praise, have you not? To be cast in my direction, Sorry, I don't follow. Must I spell it out? I, the great Airlock Shulms, the greatest detective of worldwide acclamation, arose at some ungodly hour to be here now, first thing in the morning. A miracle, you must agree. Well, if I must agree, then... As you know, my sleep is quite impregnable. Iris had to employ her full gamut of tactics. She pulled the covers off, shook me, poked both cheeks, pinched me, and kicked me from the bed. Then she poured a boiling cup of her latest experimental blend in my face, and at last I was bestirred. Oh my, Iris has been busy. Iris doesn't have it in her to go that far. She's too nice. I sense the spirit of a fellow scientist, one who relishes in the infinite possibilities of blending tea. I'm the one worthy of praise here, not Iris. This was my victory. Ooh, who said this?
Sorry to cut in.
Oh, Inspector Gregson. Good morning. Gregson, my dear fellow! Why the grim expression at this delightfully early hour?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe because I've been confronted with a grimmer expression, eh?
Dear me, are you going to take that insult lying down, Professor?
What? What? I don't know!
Poor Professor.
Anyway, here's the paperwork you asked for.
What paperwork? Oh, I took the liberty of requesting it yesterday. I have a feeling it may prove useful.
Wouldn't believe the hoop you had to jump through to get this brought out of the archives. It's the professor's autopsy report.
That mass murderers? Who killed 5 members of the aristocracy. For those of you just joining us...
He was found guilty in a closed trial 10 years ago now. It's all done under wraps. And he was quickly executed soon after the trial. It's all in here.
I don't know what to say. Thank you, Inspector. Yes, much obliged, Gregson.
Us lonely lot of the yard are just doing what we can in the shadow of the great detective Sholmes, of course.
And he was never seen again. Well then, Professor Hairbrain, this is it. Today we're going to lay all this to rest at last. I wish you the best of luck, Professor. And there's the garage. Hold on. That took forever. I suppose he'll be in there today, will he? What? Drebber. Yes, we expect the prosecution to summon him as a witness. I'm still amazed you managed to find him in just one day. I really owe you both so much.
Counsel and the defendant! The trial's about to resume. Kindly make your way into the courtroom at once.
This is it then. The final chapter. Funny, my heart's racing a little. I've not felt this before, actually. This strange foreboding. It's just gas, Ryunosuke. Take a burp. As if something's going to happen in this trial that I'm not ready for. It must be a day ending in Y. Ryunosuke feels unprepared. I can't let that distract me from the only thing that really matters. Finding the truth. We were in that frickin' room for 30 minutes. That conversation went on forever. Oh great, I have to remember the jury voices.
In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session again. We resume the public hearing of Albert Hairbrain, here present, who stands accused of murder. Are the counsels for the prosecution and defense ready to proceed? Ho, ho, ho.
Wow, he's short. Or maybe he's sitting down. The prosecution is ready, my lord. The defense is ready, my lord. As promised, Lord Van Zykson has his apprentice with him. His apprentice with memory loss.
If I may, Lord Van Zykes.
Yes, my lord.
There appears to be someone standing at your side.
Duh! I just expected him to kind of shout an exclamation. Oh yes, my apprentice and assistant. The prosecution believes today's proceedings will see the complexity of this case rise considerably. Well, la-dee-da. I therefore instructed my assistant to attend to ensure the smooth running of the trial. And the smooth running of liquid refreshments by the look of it. The way he holds himself, the way he moves, the way he used that sword. It couldn't be anyone else. But he's still suffering from amnesia, so there's really nothing we can do at the moment. I know, but... oh, this is so very hard. I can't wait to see instead when he has to throw his chalice because now his assistant's in the way. It would appear the prosecution has done a fine job in responding to the demands of the court made yesterday. I understand you have successfully secured the engineer who disappeared from the scene on the day in question. Yes, my lord. I intend to call him as a witness shortly. Yes, very good, very good. Now then, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, who have been chosen at random to represent the will of the people in this courtroom today. Are you ready and willing to proceed? Of course, my lord.
I'm sure we all understand the importance of doing our civic duty. I do so despise deception and deceit. I find it so very wearing. To take a man's life with a conjuring trick, it is against the magician's code, not to mention the law. Any fake scientist should feel the wrath of God, if you ask me. And we ought to listen to what was said on the both sides of the fence and then settle on one. That's it, isn't it? Wasn't like this back in my day. Wasn't like this at all. Completely different voices for all of them, except for maybe the royal scientist, I'm sure. If all parties are ready to proceed, you may begin, Lord Van Zykes. Before I do, my lord, there is a report I must read to the court. Yesterday, at the Grey Exhibition Grounds, the evidence of primary importance in this case, the super high-voltage instantaneous kinesis machine, which was installed on the experimentation stage, was deliberately destroyed in an explosion effected by an unknown person or persons. It was what? An explosion? This is an outrage! Yes, I've heard this grave news yesterday. Scotland Yard submitted a report to my office in the evening. I read that the machine was blasted to smithers. It's so weird to use that. And the wreckage was reduced to ashes in the flames. I have here a photographic print of the scene taken in the wake of the explosion. This is the gaping hole. It shows what little remains of the machine. Yes, a terrible business. He did it to destroy the evidence, didn't he? That Enoch Drebber. The court will take this print as evidence, counsel. Late yesterday afternoon, the protection afforded to the machine by the Special Dispensation of the Scientific Equipment Act was revoked. However, before a thorough investigation could begin, the invention was obliterated from existence. As such, this will become a very difficult trial. Ah! As it stands now, with no evidence on which to draw meaningful conclusions, the authenticity of the kinesis machine will remain forever in obscurity. Indeed, a most unfortunate state of affairs. However, one thing remains clear. The victim's death was the result of the actions of the accused. Of that, we can be certain. For it was the accused himself who was operating the machine and who ultimately caused its loss of control. Objection! As Lord Van Zykes rightly says, this is a very different trial now. The accused accepts responsibility for his part in the events that transpired. He acknowledges that Mr. Asmund died as a result of the accident caused by the machine's malfunction. However, unbeknownst to the professor, he was being deliberately deceived by a pair of very clever fraudsters. Names, counsel, if you please. Your Honor, I mentioned these people whatever. The engineer, Mr. Enoch Drebber, and the victim himself, Mr. Odie Asmund. So what exactly were these two men up to behind the defendant's back? The defense intends to expose information, thus establishing the unequivocal innocence of the defendant. Thank you, counsels. The positions of the prosecution and defense have been clearly stated. Lord Van Zykes, summon your first witness, please. At once, my lord. The prosecution calls the engineer, Mr. Enoch Drebber, to the stand. State your name and occupation for the court. Name, Enoch Trevor. Occupation? Oh, I think I got a good one. I got a good thumbnail. Hard to pin down, I would say. That fucking asshole! Mutter, mutter, mutter. Mutter, 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 mutter. Your file indicates you are currently being investigated in connection with another case. The theft of a waxwork model, is it? My most extraordinary sounding business. But that has no bearing on this trial, I assure you. Cleave it from your mind. You're familiar with the public experiment carried out at the Great Exhibition some days ago? The accused's super high voltage instantaneous kinesis demonstration. Yes, you could say that. I am aware of it. There was a terrible accident, wasn't there? It was you, Mr. Trevor, who constructed the vast machine used in the experiment. Or so our investigations indicate. Can you confirm your involvement? Yes, I constructed it in precise accordance with the blueprints, but that's all. Then the court would be very interested to hear your thoughts about the machine, I'm sure. An amazing device, if you ask me. The pinnacle of modern science, making instantaneous kinesis a reality at last. What? Good gracious! Do you mean to say that the experiment was bona fide? Is it your belief, sir? Yes, that is very much my belief. Such a waste that it blew up.
Objection!
But we've already established the machine was nothing more than a prop for an elaborate conjuring trick.
Objection!
We have established nothing of the sort. All that was shown during yesterday's proceedings is that the same outcome could have been produced by means of state trickery. The defense merely proposed a method that demonstrated its feasibility, nothing more. But... We've procrastinated long enough, I feel. Witness, you will now give your formal testimony. About the machine that you constructed for the purpose of the demonstration at the Great Exhibition. Understood. I'm just waiting for him to take that stuff off his hand and reveal it's just a very elaborate glove. I met the young professor approximately 1 year ago through Mr. Asman's introduction. He provided me with the blueprints and I constructed the machine to his precise specifications. It was no trick. If the whole show was a fraud, it would have required a body double. Tell me, did the victim have a twin? All the spectators saw the birdcage disappear above their heads and then crash headfirst into the crystal tower. A terrible accident, I grant you. Perhaps the science on which the machine was built was flawed somehow? A body double? That goes without saying, surely. To give the impression that something has moved when in reality it hasn't. It is a basic conjuring principle. The deception cannot be achieved without substituting the original with a fake at some point in the performance. But would I be right in saying you haven't managed to establish anything along those lines? Incidentally, the prosecution has already confirmed that Mr. Asman has no twin siblings. It's my understanding that this witness is well versed in conjuring artfulness. But such talents do not indicate that he was actually able to accomplish what he claims. Namely, the construction of what, by all accounts, must have been an extremely complex scientific machine. Whatever do you mean? Yesterday's proceedings brought the true nature of your past exploits to light, Mr. Trevor.
Indeed it did, my lord. As a swindler who preys on innocent scientists to elicit government grant money through conjuring know-how. Yes, it's true that I possess considerable knowledge of stage magic. But crucially, my scientific knowledge more than matches that of any academic in the field. Investigation of the witness's workshop attests to that claim, my lord. As evidence, the police found this Royal Society trophy for a young talent in science there. Yes, that's true. We spotted it there ourselves. If the hypothesis is sound, it can be forged into physical manifestation with sufficient skill. I may have sold the secrets of some deceptive wiles to sniveling, talentless scientists in the past. Would you therefore assert that the explosion of the machine was an unfortunate accident, or, of course, a deliberate act of murder carried out by the misuse of science? Counsel for the defense, your cross-examination, please. Yes, my lord. Holy crap, there's a lot of evidence here. The base was damaged. Hold on. Go back. Which it didn't. There we go.
Objection!
We've examined the birdcage that crashed to the Crystal Tower ourselves. No, go... Frickin' thing. As you can see, the cage, which is a wooden construction, has sustained damage in one particular spot. Following the explosion, it fell some 30 feet into the glass of the Crystal Tower. That level of damage is to be expected, surely. I agree. The damage itself is entirely understandable. What doesn't make sense is the location of that damage. Beep! All the breakages in the wood were at the base of the birdcage, not the top. What are you saying? That's the opposite of where they should be! That's right, my lord. The birdcage that was at the scene is damaged at its base. So we have reports of the birdcage falling headlong into the Crystal Tower, yet the damage is at the bottom. When are we gonna, like, pull this right out of our butts and have everyone wonder, where did you get that? The only way to reconcile these two facts is to accept that there were two bird cages in play that day, which were at some point switched. Switched during what wasn't a scientific experiment at all, but an elaborate piece of stage trickery. Yeah. Good gracious! Explain yourself, witness! If we examine the facts, there's only one logical conclusion we can draw. The damage on the base of the birdcage clearly indicates that it crashed tail first into the tower.
Objection!
But multiple witness reports claim it fell head first. The birdcage materialized in the sky next to a balloon flying over the stage, following a spontaneous explosion, at an altitude of some 60 feet above ground level, which is approximately 18 meters. They keep bringing that up. It's a bit annoying. Of all the things to keep duplicating, the feet and the meters at the same time. It then proceeded to fall some 30 feet into the Crystal Tower in the engulfing deflagration ensuing. Eyewitness reports amid such chaos are notoriously unreliable.
Objection!
But the victim's neck was broken.
Objection!
He plummeted 30 feet inside a heavy wooden cage. However, he feared it would be unsurprising to find one or two of his vertebrae crushed. I forgot how he did his laugh. A riveting scientific analysis of events from the prosecution there. Though to be even more rigorous, you would have to say it was only one vertebra, actually. He wasn't quiet for long. I find it hard to see what's motivating Lord Van Zykes. The witness is clearly a swindler, one who deceived a personal friend of his. If you're going to establish this deception, do it right. Sorry? I feel like that's the undertone here. Ah yes, and there's one more point the defense appears to have forgotten. It obviously wasn't a trick, as a certain truth very plainly demonstrates. What?
It seems to me that the cross-examination had better continue until we resolve this matter. Mr. Drebber, you will amend your testimony with details of this truth.
Of course. We must treat the matter scientifically, after all. Ugh, I nearly had him there. The kinesis clearly took place because there's nowhere else 30 feet high for the birdcage to have fallen from, which we know... Is this when I want to present the obvious trap door? I don't think there's enough lead up to that yet. What else do I have? Not that. Not that. No. Okay, wait, hold on. This is the only other thing that demonstrates the layout of the scene. So I probably will have to present this, and they say, well, where did he fall from? Then point to that, and then when they say, how did he fall? Then bring up the post-explosion photograph. Alright, let's do that.
Objection!
This is a diagram of the experimentation stage and its surroundings. We know that somehow the birdcage appeared in midair before falling down into the crystal tower. A fall of about 30 feet, or 9 meters. However, if you examine the diagram carefully, you'll see that there is one other possible location from which the birdcage could have fallen. The same distance of 30 feet. No!
Well, it appears the defense has a possible explanation to put forward. Go ahead, counsel.
Yes, my lord. Of course.
You will indicate the place to which you are referring to on this diagram. The alternative location from which the birdcage could have possibly fallen, the requisite 30 feet.
Okay, so do I put it here or here? If it's falling, let's try there.
Take that!
The place I'm referring to is here.
But that's where the birdcage would have been to begin with.
Which is exactly the point, my lord. Yes, the birdcage was in the machine on the stage. But what we must also consider is the height of the stage itself.
Go on, counsel.
It turns out that the experimentation stage was built at a considerable height above ground level. If you look at the diagram, in fact, you'll see it's about the same height above the ground as the balloon was above the crash site. When the experiment got underway, the machine and the birdcage were engulfed in steam. At that moment, the floor of the stage gave way, and if we assume there was to be a void underneath, this birdcage and the one seen by the audience would have fallen almost exactly the same distance. Once again, my lord, this all points to the fact that there was not one birdcage, but two! Dance break! Pursue that theme, Naruhodo! Alright.
Objection!
My learned friend has no evidence that the stage had such a contrivance in its design. Someone is responsible for the criminal destruction of the kinesis machine itself, it's true. However, the stage still stands. And take a moment to look at the photographic print of the scene following yesterday's explosion.
Good lord, the metal grill that formed the floor of the machine is undone!
Yes, most likely blown open by the force of the explosion that destroyed the rest of the machine. The defense calls for the space below the stage to be investigated, immediately. Mr. Trevor. It was you who built the kinesis machine, which means that it was you who built the two bird cages that were used to carry out this deception. Brain has brain shutting down. Whether Professor Harebrain's hypothesis is sound or not makes no difference, because it's the construction of this machine that matters. A machine designed to take Mr. Esmond's life and lay the blame firmly at the professor's door, something that could only have been carried out by you, Mr. Enoch Drebber.
Objection!
If my learned friend has reached the end of his vile assertions, the prosecution would like to crush the defense's arguments slowly but surely. Another dance break! It's the battle of the theme music! What's your favorite? Is it the Pursuit theme, or is it Van Zyke's theme? I do like the more stately prancing that his theme does over the Pursuit theme. Yeah, now his glove's gonna get sticky. What? Your argument fails to hold water. On 2 counts. 2? Firstly, before and after the experiment, this witness went nowhere near the kinesis machine. Every relevant member of the staff from exhibition has attested to that. And I believe members of the Scotland Yard have also been on watch duty at every public experiment. Sir, if I may, I know the person who was watching this stage. She can be easily distracted. In other words, Mr. Drebber had no opportunity to switch the alleged pair of bird cages. But I've already explained why he wouldn't have needed to. The nonsense of the crossbow? That doesn't bolster your case at all. The man who disappeared from the stage and the man who crashed into the tower are one and the same. The FIT report has unequivocal instant on the FIT is unequivocal on that point. And the second flaw in your assertion is a distinct lack of motive. Why would this man have wanted to take the victim's life? He had no reason to do so. A motive? Do I have to think of everything myself? I have here a contract provided by the witness. What contract is this, Lord Van Zykes? The contract with Mr. Drebber entered with the victim, Mr. Rasman. It reads, Mr. Drebber is to receive 30% of all remunerations of government grants or other income. 30%? Certainly very favorable contractual conditions. But there was one very important provision bolted into that clause. What provision? Mr. Drebber may only uphold this right on condition that both contracting parties are alive. In other words, if either of us were to die, the contract would become null and void. So you see, I had nothing to gain from Mr. Atman's death, the diametric opposite, in fact. Ugh. Need I say more? The witness had neither an opportunity nor a reason to commit the alleged crime. In short, the possibility of Mr. Drebber having done as you suggest is nil. Ah! Ah!
It seems the defense's assertion was somewhat wide of the mark. Lord Van Zykes, you will submit the contract as evidence, please.
Yes, I'm the idiot for not foreseeing that there was going to be a contract forbidding them from killing each other. It's true. If Drebber had no opportunity to switch the birdcage under the stage with the one in the crystal tower, he couldn't have done it. In any case, I have no idea what his motive might have been. There is one aspect of your argument that still holds true, however. There were 2 bird cages. The prosecution is unable to deny that. Ah! So I'm sure you're on the right lines, Mr. Arkoto. I have no doubt that there are other aspects of your assertion that are undeniable truths, too. Ah!
Well, it would seem that the defense has no rejoinder to offer.
Well, I must say I'm a little surprised. I came here to testify about the machine I built, and instead my reputation is defiled. But the prosecution's counter has set the record straight, I think. Damn, that's not a good one. It's impossible that I'm the culprit.
Objection!
Ah, damn, I could have gotten it again. I really want to get one with that evil smile. At the beginning of the trial, we believed that there was only 1 birdcage. Yet now we know there must have been 2. In other words, there was more to the demonstration than we realized at first. I think it's abundantly clear that the same applies to the culprit.
Get to the point.
The stage demonstration was constructed and set up in its entirety by you, Mr. Drebber. Therefore, it's inconceivable that you had no hand in the events that transpired. So if circumstances mean it's impossible that you could have carried out this crime yourself, it points to the fact that someone else was involved.
Someone else? Counsel, are you suggesting?
Yes, my lord. Mr. Drebber had an accomplice.
Objection!
An accomplice now? Well then, I presume. You are prepared for what's to come? Now that you're accusing not only the witness, but someone else of the most serious of crimes.
Aid and abetting? Okay.
These accusations turn out to be false. Then make no mistake. The
prosecution will demand an equally serious punishment for your slander. That's not slander.
If you make an accusation but turn out to be wrong, it's not slander unless you make the accusation not even in good faith that you think it's true.
Well, counsel, do you intend to pursue this course and formally accuse another party of involvement in this matter? What do I do here? At the moment, this is little more than a hunch on my part. I don't know for sure if Drebber had an accomplice, or even if he really is the culprit here. One way or another, though, I have to make my position clear, as a lawyer. So what's my stance going to be? Did Drebber have an accomplice, or not? I can name the accomplice. Male Strongheart! The defense is ready to name Mr. Drebber's accomplice. Somehow the two birdcages must have been switched. Everything points to that. And according to the coroner's report, that is not a not if the coroner was the accomplice. But that inconsistency itself is a clue. Counsel. My lord? You have received a stark warning already. If you are nevertheless determined, I must now ask you to identify this alleged accomplice by name. So, your answer, please. Who do you claim to have been Mr. Drebber's accomplice? Ah, there he is. Ready for the accusing. You are totally Kazuma. Look at that jaw. Look at that chin. Scotland Yard Coroner, it's you.
Take that!
The name of the person in question is... What's wrong, my Nipponese friend? Surely fear doesn't bind your tongue now. It's a little late for that. Of course I'm afraid. After all, naming her in this capacity is definitely going to make waves. A lot of waves. I could very well turn every single person in this courtroom against me. I'm sure it'll be alright, Mr. Naruhodo. Thank you, Mr. Zato. The enemy always appears larger than life, but you appear exactly the same to the enemy. Alright then. I doubt that, but here it goes. You've kept us waiting long enough. Your answer, counsel. Now. The person who colluded with Mr. Drebber in order to carry out this wicked crime is Scotland Yard's coroner, Dr. Courtly Scythe. What in the blazes are you talking about, Dr. Scythe? The head of FIT and the coroner who conducted the autopsy of the victim? We know there were two bird cages, so who could have carried out the switch to complete the illusion? The accident appeared in front of a huge crowd of spectators, and the area was immediately sealed off. Then everyone, police officers included, were banished to make way for the FIT. When else could the switch have occurred? It only could have been in that team's presence. Plus, they both have white hair. Case closed. It's essential that the court determines exactly what happened following the incident. The defense demands that Dr. Scythe be summoned to the witness stand at once to testify. Watch me pull a rabbit out of my glove. You've got nerve, lad. Standing up there, dragging the yard's name through the mud. I didn't mean to. I know the woman very well. There's no better dead room worker out there. How dare you call her a criminal? My learned friend's imagination appears to be wilder than the East End at night. Low blow. But the recklessness of your accusation aside, there is another grave problem with your argument. One which the prosecution demands you address at once. A grave problem? What's with the pun? Oh my word. Who do you claim acted as the victim's doppelganger? What? Certainly. If the birdcage containing the body... no. If the birdcage containing the body of the victim was exchanged for another, the cage must have also have contained a body. And yet, no missing persons or accidental deaths of anyone even remotely resembling the victim have been reported. Which means there was no one, dead or alive, who could have fulfilled the role of body double for Mr. Asman. That's true. If my argument is there were 2 bird cages, then there must also have been 1 person inside each. I don't know if I've got an answer to this yet, have I? What do I have to reveal how this body stunt was achieved? I have evidence! The waxwork head I still have up my butt! Very well, the defense will address my learned friend's concerns by presenting evidence that reveals the true nature of Mr. Asman's body double. Good gracious, evidence? I do hope this isn't for filibustering, counsel. The court is expecting a name. If you think you have the relevant evidence, present it now. The body double and the birdcage were hiding inside the balloon that was floating above the stage, which means that any witnesses could have only seen them from 60 feet away. Or such and such meters. Damn it! It's just... So who was it that appeared out of the explosion some 18 meters above the spectators? Aha! The body double inside the second birdcage was... this head.
Take that!
We know that the victim, Mr. Asman, was in the birdcage that was situated inside the kinesis machine on stage, and therefore he couldn't have been inside the second birdcage. Instead, that contained something else. What's been described as a body double, which is what fell from the sky and crashed in the Crystal Tower. Yes, counsel, according to your somewhat elaborate version of events. And that body double inside the second birdcage was, in fact... my tongue! It's alright, Mr. Naruhodo. You're ready for this. Just steel yourself and come out with it. Thank you, Miss Fusato. I needed that. As I was saying, the body double inside the second birdcage was... as unbelievable as it may seem, why is this fucking here? Are we only noticing this now? Uh-huh. It's just so inexplicable. We've had wide shots of the courtroom and never seen this here. I guess it just wasn't in my ass. That thing there.
Objection!
Horse shit. Open your eyes and look into mine, my Nipponese friend. I want to kiss you. Now tell me, what are you playing at? Stand firm now, Ryunosuke. This is the time to show your Japanese spirit. Which is kind of the problem. As the court will observe, this is a waxwork model. A model, in fact, of an infamous London murderer from 10 years ago, the Professor.
Objection!
You started by indicting the leader of the Friends of the Fit as an accomplice in this crime. And now you've moved on to indicating waxworks? Yes, that's about the size of it. But why? And why this waxwork? It looks nothing like the victim. In fact, it could hardly resemble him less. What possible justification can you give? If you want to know why, ask Mr. Drebber. What? Just days before Professor Harebrain performed his public demonstration, Mr. Drebber abducted this model from Madame Tussauds. Did you say abducted? And 2 days after the incident at the Great Exhibition, he returned it to the museum. Within the timing. Is this true, Mr. Drebber? Brain has performed an illegal operation and will now shut down. At first, I couldn't see why Mr. Drebber would have stolen the waxwork and then given it back again. But now the reason is clear. He took it so that he could put it inside the second birdcage as a body double for Mr. Asman. Gay!
Objection!
Are you hearing this, ladies and gentlemen of the jury? Are you hearing the defense? Astounding proposal. Astonishing, sorry. That the witness fabricated this vast machine with the intention of deceiving some wretched scientist. That he did so in collusion with the country's finest coroner and on a public stage in front of a vast audience. And that, to effect the deception, he used a waxwork model in no way resembles the victim. Are we really to believe this far-fetched tale? What do you decide?
Objection!
Uh-oh. The weak slaps. We've got weak slaps. Wait. Yes, if you put it like that, of course it sounds implausible. My lord! I do need to speak, if you please. Go ahead, Mr. Foreman. Myself and my colleagues have reached an agreement. Very good, in that case. Let's go ahead and end this right here.
Guilty! Guilty! Guilty!
What? The magician's French?
Guilty!
And she is a child!
Kill me!
So as indicated by the foreman, the jury has reached a consensus. I knew that was going to happen. We shall get through this, Mr. Arhodo, as we always do. We can't go through one damn case without the jury jumping to conclusions. And uncover some new truths along the way, I'm quite sure. Yes, I agree. I'm going to have to appeal to the jurors as usual, and see if I can persuade them to change their minds. The defense will now embark on a summation examination. Oh, I don't even have to ask for it. He knows what I do. Are you and your fellows ready to proceed, Mr. Foreman? We are, my lord. Very well. In that case, I ask you now to state clearly, for all present to hear, the grounds on which you have decided that the defendant is guilty of the crime for which he is charged. I've known that woman for years. She never be an accomplice to anything. I don't know why we started with him, but alright.
It's utter nonsense to think that these two would ever be conniving with one another. Oh dear, this is the most troubling. Surely the waxwork man stole has nothing. Surely the waxwork the man stole has nothing to do with the coroner, is it? I've had my own problems with members of the police. I do not trust them much. I've seen no rigorous proof that this waxwork was ever inside the birdcage. It's conjecture. Accusing someone without right evidence is he's not a proper job, is he? I won't have it.
Somewhat unsurprisingly, it seems the introduction of this waxwork model to the proceedings has polarized opinion. It didn't. They all voted guilty. Like, why did juror number 3 go guilty? All he said was, I don't trust cops. Which makes you think he'd go the other way. Yeah, exactly. Given that its face is obscured and its build in no way resembles that of the victim. I can only applaud my learned friends. I don't know why I'm yawning so much. I can only applaud my learned friends' temerity of suggesting as it is as Mr. Asman's body double. I've had too much of my hallowed wine. Yes, the applause is deafening, and yes, I know it seemed extraordinary. But that's the point. That's why I have a strong feeling. It's actually a greater clue than anyone else yet realizes. What are you thinking, Mr. Naruhodo? I can't explain why at the moment, but I feel as though there's a specific reason why it was used, why it had to be this model. Really? A reason why nothing else would do, you mean? Yes, and I'm convinced. It's something far more significant than whether or not the model looked like the victim. Well, if that's the case, we must prevent the trial from ending me prematurely at all costs. How old is juror number 5? Clearly a girl, if you listen to the voice they gave her when she voted guilty. I have to find a way out of this.
If you're ready, counsel, you may proceed with the summation examination.
Yes, my lord. Let's go ahead and get to juror number 3, because that's the thing that seems worth pressing.
Hold it!
What sort of problems?
Let's just say we've had a run into each other on numerous occasions while I've been performing on the street.
Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Right, I see.
Obviously, artists such as myself cannot appear on stage as we work on in proximity with our audiences. So we perform our great magic in parks, on street corners, and the like. But the police use any excuse to make our lives difficult.
Watch where you fire that thing! Bang, 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 bang! Okay, great. Juror number 5's dead, Van Zykes is dead. Oh, hey, look, it was Kazuma! And now he's dead too.
Excuse me.
Do you have something to say in response to that, Mr. Ottermole? Oh, you're calling a mass murderer! Sorry, my mistake. I got confused because I heard you look like him. I don't look anything like the man! You want to be locked up, sonny? Thanks, Mr. Sholmes. Perhaps we could move on. I was really wondering if you had something you wanted to add in response to what juror number 3 just said. And clearly you do. Also, I'm gonna duck behind this podium now. Please stop. Back in my day, back in the good old days, wasn't it like this? We could just lock up whoever we wanted. What was it like, sir? We worked our fingers to the bone to earn the public's trust, we did. And by Jove, we earned it. People respected us back then. Back when we were all working under the thief-taker general.
Respected you?
No one would have called a coroner to question them days. A coroner's report was the hallmark of an investigation done right. Especially when Dr. Courtney Stevens put her name to it. She was the best of the best. She was the apple of the what? Hold on a minute. What are you talking about? Who's Courtney Stevens? Sorry, got a bit carried away there. Stevens is Dr. Sives's maiden name. Her maiden name? So that was before she was married. Of course, yes, still on May. It's South now, isn't it? Stevens. I'm sure I've seen that name somewhere recently. Anyway, the point is, those were the great old days of policing, not now. Sorry to interrupt, sir. But do you think you could change your statement to include that name? Well, yeah, I don't see why not. You know what? Probably a reference to that medical report we never ended up reading. Well, let's read the contract while we're at it. Hell of a contract. Can fit it on a postcard. Everything I make is usually about a page long or more. Oh, well, there you go. First of all, again, not much of a report. It's a note card. But, Courtney Stevens, eh? Also, someone did bring this up, and we never ended up doing it, so why don't we try now? Can we unput this? Oh, look, the cover came open. Yes, now there should be a glass plate inside. You have to change the plate with each new photograph you want to take, you see. Is something wrong? There is no plate. It's been removed. Ah, what a pity. But I suppose if you think about it, this wouldn't be the actual camera that was used at the time, just like the waxwork isn't the actual person. So we never had found a photographic print of the executed convict from coming back to life anyway. Oh, yes, you're quite right, of course. Of course, Izada-san, she looks devastated. I can't see the other side? Oh, what about this? Nope. A wonderful machine. There's clearly a big blood splatter on the side. You really love contraptions, don't you? Oh, yes! Anything mechanical I find absolutely irresistible. I can resist it, and then I can't. Almost irresistible, surely? Well, whenever I see a pocket watch, for example, I can't help myself. I simply have to take it apart. That's worrying. Yes, Father tells us by the time the rumblings of his stomach now. He's given up having a watch. Poor Professor Mikotoba. But hey, look, we got something here. Anything on the other side? No, just this. Hey, blood! Look, Mr. Naruhodo. What is it? On the billows just here. There seem to be some very dark red stains. Yes, you're right. It looks like blood, actually. Oh my! I'm sure it's not what you think. Not what you're thinking. Hey, why are you messing with that camera? Oh, sorry. Hold on. Yeah, no, I'm doing this now. I mean, that's the connection between the professor and Courtney, not Drebber and Courtney. So I guess you end up being the closest.
Objection!
Those two statements clearly contradict each other. Good gracious. To whose statements do you refer, counsel? So, juror number 2. Oh gosh, me? What can I do for you? I presume that you heard what juror number 6 said in his statement? It's brought to light the maiden name of the coroner, Dr. Sy, which in turn has revealed a connection that wasn't apparent before. Well, naturally, as a woman of society, I find such connections and relationships irresistible. Oh, we're learning everyone's weaknesses. But oh golly, I'm afraid I failed to see what you mean. Dr. Sy's maiden name is Stevens, and through that name, the coroner is very definitely linked to the waxwork of the killer. The defense has evidence to prove it. My goodness, evidence, you say? How utterly enthralling. Counsel, the court cannot overlook that last remark. I must very much hope there is a substance to your claim. Of course, my lord. I would ask the court to look at this. The evidence that clearly links Dr. Sy to the mass murderer known as the Professor. Yes.
Take that!
I have here a certain autopsy report from 10 years ago. A 10-year-old autopsy report? What relevance does that have? It is, of course, from the autopsy of the person portrayed in the waxwork, the killer known as the Professor. Duh. The Professor's... But the man was a capital offender, so... That's right. This is the certification of death that was drawn up after the convict's execution. The identity of the killer was never made public, so the report gives few details. But what's important is the name of the coroner who wrote it. Courtney Stevens.
Oh my, Courtney Stevens? Strike a light!
It appears that the professor's autopsy was conducted by Dr. Scythe 10 years ago. And a few days ago, Mr. Drebber very deliberately stole the waxwork of the professor from Madame Tuspel's. A waxwork that doesn't, in fact, resemble the victim, Mr. Asmund, at all.
And do you suppose there's some unsavory relationship between those events?
Absolutely. I'm sure of it. There's no doubt in my mind that the professor case is at the heart of a link that we have yet to uncover. Between Dr. Courtney Scythe and Mr. Enoch Drebber.
Hidden links, mysterious connections, secret relationships. This is all most extraordinary. We're surely obliged now to explore this further.
Quite right. We can't let this stroll come to an end now. Not while there's this cloud of suspicion hanging over the yard's best corner. It isn't like this back in my day, but we're still here to uphold justice in the end. Not guilty.
Uh-huh. Now that we know is false because we found glass.
Hold it!
Wait, whoops, I actually didn't mean to do that. I might as well play this out then. But you claimed the whole instantaneous kinesis demonstration was a trick.
That I did, but there's more than one way to pull a rabbit out of a hat, isn't there?
Whoops, I keep forgetting that that doesn't move the text along anymore. Sorry?
I grant you, given that this cage appeared from amidst an explosion, there'd been no need to use a real person. If the waxwork had been used, the culprit could have at least had the decency to make it look like the victim.
I'm not sure exactly how much criminals are governed by decency.
The point is, if you're going to make a claim about that waxwork being inside the bird cage, you need to give us some evidence. Without that, it's just not science!
I suppose we should expect nothing less than a logical argument from a fellow of the Royal Society. But perhaps it means the mind could be changed. We presented some suitable evidence.
Evidence that the professor waxwork was inside that birdcage. Can I produce that or not? I have evidence! Actually, I have something I'd like you to see, sir.
Oh? Ah, damn it, I keep doing it. I must warn you that I firmly believe it's only wise to trust men in white coats. So given your jet black outfit, I don't mind admitting to a sense of trepidation here.
So you don't trust anyone in black? Looking in the mirror must be very trying. Just gonna leave that there. I do have some evidence that proves the waxwork was inside the birdcage. Mainly, this chunk of glass!
Take that!
What's that? A piece of glass? Though it's unusually thick for glass.
Yes, it's a piece of broken glass that we found inside the jacket of the waxwork. As you say, it's not ordinary glass, though. It's very thick and clearly made for extra strength. It's transparent aluminum, much like the special glass that was developed for the construction of the Crystal Tower.
The Crystal Tower? Holy smoke!
Exactly. The centerpiece of the Great Exhibition, where the very incident we're talking about took place. On the day in question, the birdcage fell from above and smashed through a window of that special glass.
From whence this small piece originated? Is that it?
Precisely. So, what do you say? Now that the clear evidence in support of the assertion has been placed before you.
Well, as I said, I only trust men in white coats as a rule. However, when the reasoning is sound, I'll trust even a black-coated fella. It's fair to say colour shouldn't come into it. In light of what you've shown me here, yes, I feel obliged to change my position on the matter.
In that case, juror number 4, you will amend your statement now, please.
Wait, but did he vote? Okay, well, for some reason that doesn't make him change to not guilty. I guess we have to pit him against someone else. Oh, well, there we go.
Objection!
Those two statements clearly contradict each other. Good gracious! To whose statements do you refer, counsel? Again. If you could put down your corn for a moment, juror number 5. Oh, you mean me? You've pointed out that it's wrong to make an accusation without evidence. The accusation that the waxwork model was inside the second birdcage on the day in question is not without supporting evidence, as the defense demonstrated to the juror sitting beside you. Oh, is that right? Would it be fair to say you didn't follow the argument?
I don't understand much besides corn or cob, to be honest.
Of course you don't. If I could interject here, please do. Now that this assertion of yours about the waxwork has been backed up by some solid evidence, it would be wrong of me as a man of science not to pursue the matter further. What is the judge looking at? The back of juror number 5's head?
I'm in here too, then.
Sorry?
If this brainy gentleman says he's right, then he must be. See, I wouldn't dream of going against Colonel Cobb or anyone who's got stuff in between the ears.
Success, if you can call it that.
Thank you, counsel. That will do. Please stop with this bullshit. As a result of the summation examination, the jury's overall leaning has changed. 2 jurors now call guilty, against 4 who call not guilty. Accordingly, the court has failed to reach a consensus at this time. And the trial must continue.
We did it.
Oh, well done, Mr. Naruhodo. Another wonderful victory. Partial victory.
A waxwork of the despicable professor. Used as a body double for the victim in this quite extraordinary case. I must say, it's extremely hard to believe the assertion could possibly be true. But then people assert that I'd deliver presents in one night! However, it would appear that it does at least warrant further investigation. Another day of investigation, everybody! Check out!
It's the waxwork of the professor that links Mr. Drebber with Dr. Scythe. And I'm convinced that there's a special significance to that link.
I don't know what you're trying to prove, lad. I really don't.
The truth, sir, by using evidence and testimony.
That's what you lawyers call fangled, newfangled jurisprudence.
Therefore, the court is to delve deeper into the alleged involvement of the waxwork in this case. Then the prosecution calls for the owner of the model to be summoned as a witness.
The owner?
Madame to Spells. I really thought that Lord Van Sykes would object to this whole line of inquiry.
Very well, I concur. I've got shit to do today. Make arrangements for Madame de Spells to appear as a witness with immediate effect.
Listen carefully, my learned friend. Yes? You should know that you're on the brink of opening Pandora's box. There's hope in that box. I know there is.
The court will now adjourn for 45 minutes. During that time, the prosecution will summon the new witness and prepare her for taking the stand.
Madame to Spells, yes. I shall see to it at once, my lord. Oh, okay. Well, it is almost 9 o'clock. I know I did have a late start today, but I do have things to do this evening, so unfortunately I am going to have to call it there. Hopefully we're near the end of this trial. Things are getting juicy. We're also running out of savings. Okay, set do that. Wait. I never used this one? Okay. So thank you all for joining me. We will be back at this tomorrow night at 7. Hopefully. I don't have to go anywhere tomorrow, so I should be back in time. But we will be back with more Skyrim. I think I've solved the dragon problem, but we'll find out later. Instead, I'll send you guys over to Nick, who's doing more Elden Ring. I'm sorry if you came here for refuge from Elden Ring. I don't have much in the terms of options. Until next time, guys, I'll vamp for about 5 more seconds because I keep forgetting that I have another 10 seconds after doing the raid command to keep you all in here. La di da di da dee doo 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 dee 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 doo 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 doo. There we go. Bye!